Come and get started on a new mission, a new direction, a new intention. Welcome to 5.8G Alive at Connections 50 Plus. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, catering to all your prospects in the third act of life.
Economic well-being, social gratification, personal fulfillment.
Join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m. on Connections 50 Plus Facebook page, YouTube channel,
and on Gael the Caribbean.
Good evening, and happy Emancipation. How was Emancipation Day yesterday? Happy Emancipation to all of Trinidad, the Caribbean, and especially Afro-Caribbean brothers and sisters, and in particular Afro-Trinidadians. I am Terry-Ann Joseph Brathwaite, one of the co-creators of Connections 50 Plus, which brings you 5.8G Alive. With me as usual.
Hi, happy Emancipation. I hope you all had a great time yesterday and for the whole week to celebrate the Emancipation. Yeah, I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, the other co-creator of Connections 50 Plus. Welcome again.
Yes, it is Emancipation, and we have a beautiful show for you today. This weekend, Jennifer, we went to the Emancipation Village, and as we're talking about that, you all are going to see some pictures of us flashing. And what did you think of the village this year, Jennifer?
I found it was really good, Terry-Ann. It was larger. I found it had much more booths. I liked that they catered for the rain. So, although we had a lot of showers, but it was well in terms of covered. So you didn't get wet. I love the display, of all those who, contributed towards our history. I found that was, to me, it had more than before. I enjoyed it. I found I was very proud and, hope that they get bigger and bigger and more support as the years go on. Yeah.
Nice. No, I think they
And the shopping, wow. We really have to support. So what I did do, I took notes and took cards because you want to, after you leave the village, you wonder sometimes how do you get in touch with the vendors? So it's good to have. So I have the cards for those, the vendors there. Yeah.
I always go to these things and just have a longing and a wish that there would be a permanent place where we can find all those, because they have to keep remembering cards and so on. Not nice, but the effort is good. The effort is good. So Jennifer, today we are happy to have a great representative of our Afro-Trinidadian tribe, a distinguished gentleman, an innovator, a manufacturer, a spiritual leader. I think someone who really typifies what the Afro-Trinbagonian man is about, and we need to stop talking about them like they are not the kings that they are. So, listen, everyone, pay attention, sit up, and listen to this discussion with Mr. Michael Cooper. Hey, viewers, we are celebrating emancipation. We are celebrating our Africanness, our Blackness, and Jennifer and I, Connections 50 Plus, embrace everyone in Trinidad, but this show, this weekend, we are embracing our excellence. And we are very proud, as we told you before, to have this very distinguished gentleman with us to show off and highlight and ramage a little bit about a lot of, and I'm using the word ramage deliberately, you'll find out why just now, about excellence as we celebrate emancipation with our Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Trinidadian brothers and sisters. Welcome, Michael Cooper, to 5.8G Alive.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I am honored to be here. And if I can do your invitation justice.
Well, Michael wears tons of hats that we could first of all, just a short, he will talk about it more, but he is the founder of Panland Trinidad and Tobago Limited, which manufactures our national instrument, the steel pan. That's why I say we have to ramage here a little bit, and you see all kind of steel pan in the corner and steel pan behind him. He's a powerhouse in the economic sphere in the field of manufacturing, which is very significant because we tend to think that it's easy to be a distributor. It's very difficult to be a manufacturer, and you've been there for 20 plus years. He is also an Ifa devotee of the Orisha faith, and I think we'll have a beautiful opportunity today to learn more and hear about African religions and how that blends into our society. And I always say we are amongst the most intelligent, we are amongst the most innovative, and we see that in his manufacturing prowess, but he is also serving his third term as a board member of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, which is also known for its focus on innovation, manufacturing, and being relevant to Trinidad and Tobago. And we are happy to say we have an empowered and strong Black man in our presence. Not so, Jennifer?
Of course, I am so proud, and we are so proud to have Michael, here with us. And I am looking forward to this conversation, Michael, what you have to share with us on this as we celebrate emancipation. So welcome again.
Michael,
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, and good to see you after all of those years.
Many years. Many, many, many years.
Many years. Yes, that's correct.
Michael, let's start the conversation by asking you, what does emancipation mean to you?
It means to me. Are you asking what emancipation means or what the observance of this holiday means?
What it means to you?
I think emancipation is very significant. In our country, these events are important because they allow our national, they allow our people to pay attention to subjects and to things that normally they would not. These things are very, very crucial to us as a people. It's us, to me, I think what is happening with Black people in Trinidad and Tobago and in the diaspora generally, there is a major missing aspect of our own. And the major thing in there to me is history, is knowledge of ourselves, which allows us to understand who we are, why we behave, see each other in the light that we actually do, why some of us, sometimes you hear Black people don't like one another and that sort of thing, and how we socialize the way that we do. The observance of emancipation brings that out, although I have noticed that it is not as widely observed as I would like, that I think it should be by people of African origin or of that lineage. I still believe that it reaches enough and it has enough impact that can make a difference. I feel the difference could be bigger if it reaches a wider sort of audience and participation. But there are all kinds of reasons why that does not happen or why it's not happening. But basically, that is the significance of the emancipation of the observance to me.
Yeah, great. Jennifer?
Yeah, Michael, what you said is so true. And I look at it that I definitely see the significance of celebration, having that emancipation as a holiday, a public holiday, to give us the opportunity to go out and celebrate and learn more. Actually, we have been, Karen and I visited the Emancipation Village, and I really saw great improvement in how, in terms of the many booths that were there, how it was set out compared to long ago. And you know, as we walked around, you saw, you can learn more about those that went ahead. You know, so you had both the local, and you know, you would have had that Mandela, and then you had the locals like Kafra Kambon and this. So they actually have been making, you know, putting the knowledge out there for those who visit to read. Um, yes, it's not, and I agree with you, not that we would like to see more, but I am seeing an improvement, a push, you know, a push towards getting that knowledge and information out there, and to again bring in the younger ones to tell the history, you know. So I really would like to see improvement and a continuation on that.
I will agree with you. Um, you know, to my mind, when we have this kind of effort and this kind of presentation, I believe that we should be given the access to where education impacts, and that is in the schools. Educating that we do is generally in the school. Now it has become more on the smartphone, but education, the formal education, which is controlled, should have a consideration for the teaching of history, and history not who discovered Trinidad and Tobago,
Yeah.
and who fought the war of Britain and Norway and all this sort of thing, and the French Revolution, but history of us. Where did we come from? What was our journey? How did we arrive to where we are? You don't have to get into all the socioeconomic aspects of it, but I think the story of our journey, and even what is being taught generally, is that our history begins with slavery. Our history began way before they started to count AD or BC.
Yeah.
And there's a history there which informs, I mean, we don't have to get very deeply into it, but the fact is that nothing is being really transferred to the young minds to impress upon them. We really are, as people, human beings walking this earth among the other people who do not look like us. Thing is that people always lament, look at these races and look at the others and so on. But they know their history.
Yep.
They have very strong ties to all of that history going way back, and it is taught.
Yeah.
We have had a kind of wall put up somewhere along the way that prevented us, and then we have had this programming, religious, I shouldn't say religious, let me say spiritual, what we would call education, that taught us what is right and what is wrong, and who are we and who we are not. Also taught us what is good and what is bad.
Yeah.
One of the bad things, for example, is that most things that are black are not good.
Mhm.
And on the spiritual side, there is something that they refer to as black magic. I said that I am an Ifa devotee. This has to do, or people locally will say that is the Orisha people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Orisha is not the religion. The Orishas are the deities in the Ifa tradition. They are like in the Christian or Catholic faith, they have saints. They have
Okay.
um, images and entities who they pray to for various aspects of their well-being and of their spirituality. The Orishas are the African tradition, and this is before slavery. This is in the homeland, and these are indigenous to the African spirituality.
Mhm.
So here you hear about Obia, and you hear about this Obia thing, and when people want to do something bad, they do Obia and you and all this sort of thing. Similarly, voodoo, this paganism and that sort of thing. And these things were deliberately painted that way so that we can be swayed and we can be programmed of what is supposed to be good and what is good for us by people who never had our interests.
Mhm.
Okay? Ask yourself, if someone is the agent or the ones who would have beaten you, would have enslaved you, would have imprisoned you, would have raped, would have plundered, would have murdered, and so on, and the kind of levels of brutality that were inflicted on us as a people at some point in time, the same people came to you because they tell you, okay, that door is open, you can go outside now and say, okay, everything I do now is for your better interest. I am looking after you. I have your back. I will walk backwards. Okay? I will walk backwards. And I think this is really the lie that we live, that is really the falsehood of our own existence, which is manifesting now in the way we as a people live, we behave, we see each other, and what manifests in our society as a result, whether it be crime and killing. We have a lot of youths who are devoid of anything that can be considered spirituality. Why? Because they have
Yeah.
rejected what has been offered to them. Because what has been offered to them, they see through it as not being real and not making sense. Okay?
Mhm.
Yep.
And I'm not be talking about those that are obvious who we see that are deviant. I can tell you, I am concerned that those of us, those of the young people who we have, who are educated also, you speak to them and they are just as ignorant. Oh, I'm not painting a broad brush here. I am speaking in generalities, I'm speaking concepts, I'm speaking ideas so that we can think about who we are and what it is really happening. I'm not trying to define anything. And to be frank, I want to make it clear that I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have most of the answers. Okay? But these are just my thoughts. It's what I see from where I sit and what my journey has taught me, has shown me. and what makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think it's important that I share these thoughts so that people can start thinking also.
I think that is so critical because I think it is well in alignment with what Jennifer and I are doing with 5.8G Alive, in that in the absence of a program in the curriculum at any level, in the absence of widespread institutional religion, if you want to use that as the example, the thing that is true and that has worked and continues to work in the African tradition is the oral tradition. And we are always happy to use this platform as a means of continuing that oral tradition. And it is so important. We may not understand the history, we may not be interested in going back to AD or whatever. And a lot of people will say, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about now, and I want to hear about today, which is why I think it is exciting to have you tell your story. And I want us to now go into, we will get into the story and the journey of your being an IFA devotee. But I want to go to that picture behind you and that instrument in the corner, and you as a significant powerhouse, and I will use it as a powerhouse in our economic sphere. If you could share with us the history and the story of Panlan, that a Black entrepreneur, because there is also another fable that we are not business people.
Yeah.
If we are business people, we go into very simple businesses that are not complex and not complicated. So we would love to hear the story of Michael Cooper and Panlan TNT.
Well, a story began probably about 28 years ago. I was at the time, managing director of the Neil and Marcy Assembly Plant, which was a big facility in Arima, in Santa Rosa. Neil Marcy Industries was a flagship company in the Neil and Marcy group of companies, and a major component of the motor vehicle business. I ran those operations. When I look back, I wondered if I was young at the time, but I was successful. The assembly plant was targeted as one of the industries to be rationalized because there was the World Economic Order, which required that economies open what they call trade liberalization. So many of these industries which were protected, like some of these industries that they call screwdriver industries, which are assembly industries like the assembly plant, those started to be dismantled, and the barriers that were put up, the trade barriers that were put up to protect those industries, were dismantled systematically. So we have the timeline of about 5 years in which that program was to take place, and the assembly plant would have been no more. Because then it meant that anybody can import vehicles and nobody is stuck with the monopoly, as they say, of Neil and Marcy and Amar and McAnally and so on. Okay? So I ran that operation. It was a very significant operation, the largest operation in the Neil and Marcy group. There were 800 employees, 800 people under my control. And, in getting out of it, the question, of course, came up as to what will we do with that facility, all of that equipment, all of that property, and so on. So we went all about, I particularly as one of the point people, went all about looking for substitutes to occupy that facility with. South Korea, Israel, Greece, wherever, Malaysia, all over the place, the US and so on. The Neil and Marcy group at the time, and I think maybe now even so, I am not too sure. The manufacturing aspect in the group was something of, there was hesitancy to be involved in this kind of manufacturing because the people concerned were generally traders, and people were generally more comfortable with providing services, business, service business, or trading business, or you buy something and you sell and you have services and so on. So there was that reluctance, and we ended up with just a few options. One of the options, which sat right under our noses, was the steel pan. Commercialization of steel pan, manufacture and marketing and so on, and that you have to really navigate something from port. And people are not particularly comfortable with that. In other words, there are easier ways of making money.
Exactly.
Okay? So the question that arises, what do you really want to do that for? It's just money you want to make, what do you want to do that for? Okay? I was compelled, if I go to explain some of the dynamics involved, if this program would be too short, right? But I was compelled and I decided to leave the group and leave the group with the pan at the time. So I left the Neil and Marcy group and I began the company Trinidad and Tobago Instruments, which began in the Neil and Marcy group as a Neil and Marcy company with partners of MIC and Pan Trinbago. Neil and Marcy were the major shareholder, the majority shareholders. So I left the Neil and Marcy group and I acquired part of the deal, the leaving was my ownership of the majority shareholding in the company. Ultimately, Pan Trinbago demitted the company when we undertook a jumping ahead here now.
Yeah.
So we left there, which was up at Santa Rosa, and I came into Laventille to set up shop, right? Pan Trinbago jumped off because at the time we tried to gain investors and do some capitalization of the company, and they chose to leave. Who are practically on the way out also. So it's basically myself. But I have retained majority shareholding and control of the company from inception. So that's how, that was the aspect of the journey which I, how I came to this point. I say that was in 19,
Between 95 and 2000.
1996, 95, 96,
96.
thereabout.
I
Company was formed in 1904, which was registered.
Yeah. I want to just before coming, I want to really and truly give my personal congratulations to you. It may not mean a lot, but from those days, and I fully understand the model of business that existed in all the colonies. It was the business class were descendants of plantation owners, and this was you make the sugar or you make the cocoa, you send it to process and you bring it back and sell it. So buying and selling, import and export is our base economy. And I can just imagine the kind of mind that you have that caused you to be a comfortable manager in the group. And I'm sure they could have repositioned you anywhere else, but deciding to incorporate yourself, be in the group, and then come out and persist with it really puts you amongst the best of entrepreneurial minds and mindsets, and that the company still exists today. If we were to look at our business history, you do not have many companies with that track record. And even if you have companies with that longevity, it's really by acquisition of many other companies and your conglomerate and things like that. So hats off to you, especially a Black man with that kind of pioneering spirit. This story needs to be sent all
actually,
over.
Again, I want to endorse what Terry-Ann said, Michael, but what I'm thinking, as I mentioned before, and we were in that Savannah, I should really see next year a photo of you with the history of the side about your innovation. You know what you have done. That is so powerful. And the story need to be told. You know, you mentioned to especially younger ones not being aware. I mean, I know you refer to it more on the spirituality side, but the actual history, they don't know. Actually, I must refer to very recently, it could have been before the pandemic, where a company also opened a steel band factory. And I read in the news, and there I saw, looking in one of the stories, they actually said, this is the first steel band factory. And I am saying, when I saw that, I said, this could never be true. Because I'm aware, Michael, when you started, and this is what I mean. They didn't, whoever did the story didn't do proper research. They just didn't know. And hearing now the background and how you started, I think definitely it needs to be told somewhere. We need to have that in the history book, and not that a recent pan factory is the best thing out for us, and then they were talking about the export of pan, etc. So I have to bring in that, because your story needs to be told.
You know, the thing about media and stories.
Yeah.
You know, they always say that the victor is the one who writes the story, not the vanquished. You know, the thing about media and stories is that media generally are owned and swayed and paid, and not necessarily objective. And the stories that are told, mass audience, who are they're not discerning, you know, and people will repeat as truth because that is all that they know or all they have been informed of. This is how it goes. I am painfully aware of that. The strange thing about that story that you just mentioned there is that the people who are the main technical people in that new factory are all people who are ex-employees of my company. All of them.
Yeah.
The tuner there, the person who is in charge of the operations, he worked with me for over 15 years. One who is in charge of marketing, I don't have to call names, he started here. I used to give him time off to go to school, to go to university half day for classes. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Now the marketing is, and it is a company that is owned by a sector who are very influential and who can sway public opinion and show and so on, and anybody and anything. So
Yeah.
I'm not in denial of that. And the people in the industry will tell you. Right now, the big people, the tuners, if you're familiar with the steel pan and the steel bands, the tuners who are the critical people in the steel bands, the tuners of our major steel orchestra, most of those tuners, most of them, like 80%, came out of these operations.
Yeah.
Great, great.
So, this is what it is. This is how the journey was. This is what we produce.
Yes.
It's one of the things I'm proud of.
Great. Michael, as you're on that line of what you produce, can you tell us what does Panland TNT Limited do?
We do. We are steel pan manufacturer. We have always been. But the difference was, and maybe still is to some extent, I left Neil & Marcy to get into this business, which started in Neil & Marcy, as I mentioned to you. And there is a vision that this industry can be a major component of our economic landscape. It is an industry that presents opportunities that no other industry presents, especially for young Black men and women, and not necessarily, as they say, educated, okay? But also those who are educated. But I'm saying that the opportunity presented is very broad and very inclusive. A lot of the people who are the best artisans in pan today, they didn't go to university. Many of them didn't finish high school. They came through because they are talented. They have capabilities. They are not necessarily special, but they were able to, in the right place at the right time, to get these opportunities. Panland has been able to provide these opportunities. So, coming into this industry, there was a major consideration for training and development of people.
Yeah.
Because you don't walk out in the street and get somebody who can make pan, who can tune pan, who can whatever. So there was a major training activity within Panland. And that training this is why we can say that all of these people came out of our operation. Vision was you live in a company where you have 800 people. My management meetings could not fit in a normal room when I was at Milan Massey. So you live in that level of operation, manufacturing technology and understanding and knowledge. And the vision was not maybe to get an 800 employee operation, but certainly a significant one that employs quite a number of people, develop quite a number of major economic or ecosystem that will provide tremendous opportunity for our people.
And could I ask you, what is the reach of Panland today? So if someone is around Trinidad, the Caribbean, globally, what would they see as the output of Panland?
I don't know about the output, but we have had customers on every continent. We have had customers and still do all over.
So you're a major exporter.
Our business has been export.
Yes.
We are market to Amazon. This is a platform that we are developing in a major way because the world is going to online shopping and that sort of convenience. We are there. We have been there for the last couple of years or so. We do a variety of instruments. Of course, you have the big full-size conventional instruments that people know. We also have a range of what we call undersized instruments or miniature instruments, catering for one side tourism market, the toy market worldwide, the early education market, the hobby market, and of course, the major instrument market, which covers education and community development and everything else. So we participate across the board with the range of products that we do. And there are tremendous opportunities in those other sectors of the market, which we are seeking to capitalize on also.
So we could say that when we look at Panorama, we look at Pan in schools, we look at wherever the Pan is locally, we're likely looking at instruments that was produced and tuned in your facility.
Many of them. When we came into the marketplace, there was already Pan. We are not professing to.
No, but you are there for 20 something years.
It was not a commercial, it was not the commercial type of operation. So I did not get involved to be a hustler and to try to make money from Pan. I got involved in the development industry. A whole set of opportunities and people. Of course, you want to make money. And of course, that would be nice. I did much more than I did. This journey has been quite tough. There are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of hurdles, a lot of barriers that have been put up. It is not for the faint-hearted.
Michael,
there are many entrepreneurs who would say the same.
The other people got in very easily because they have very, very deep pockets.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Michael, in terms of your vision now, do you attend, and you're a manufacturing company, But in terms of international, the trade shows, etc., where you can display the instruments, do you get involved in trade shows overseas?
Trade shows,
Yeah.
our marketing has been very much based on trade show marketing. We have been members in the major music industry organizations,
Right.
in the markets, the largest markets in the US, and we even went to the largest market in the world for musical instruments, which is in Germany, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That in Frankfurt. But we have been all about, we have been to the toy fair, you know, we have done some tremendous marketing and exposure. It's expensive. It's expensive. We
Yeah.
have done it for quite a number of years. Now you have more opportunity to do marketing online
Yeah.
and virtual, which we are always also trying to capitalize.
Excellent.
Is a limiting factor. As I said, the journey has been tough. It has been up and down. I sometimes wonder how I'm still here. But I
Rest
think
That deep
assured,
commitment.
rest assured, I have interacted with so many local manufacturers, and especially those of Afro origin, and they say the same thing in their 30th year. And I would say it's the same right through, because you have to continue even when you talk to international manufacturers and so on. They just are amazed when they look back and they see the journey that they've traveled. How on earth did I do it? Well, resilience and persistence. And perhaps we can now segue into the other aspect of your life, which I am sure may have a significant part of why you are the resilient person that you are, you being an Ifa devotee. Now, we talked about the history of Afro-Trinidadians, Africans in Trinidad, and the notion that life history started with slavery, as you say, forgetting it went away AD. And when we look at the spiritual state today, I'm not going way back, I'm looking today. People would tend to see religions. We think Christianity, we think Hinduism, we think Islam. And in terms of indigenous religions, although we said it's not Trinidad, you look at the Baptist, what is the influence, strength, depth of the Orisha, or should I say, Ifa, in Trinidad and the Caribbean as an African mode of spirituality?
I'm going to give you just a little bit of my journey into IFA. Right? I am a very young devotee by all accounts, by all comparisons. So I would tell people I just come. Although just come is about 6 years or more, but I just come. Okay. It is spirituality that I practically stumbled upon. It's a story in itself. But I said to say it was not from someone or some people soliciting others to join or become part of. And enough, that impressed me. there wasn't anybody trying to convince me to believe this or trying to browbeat me or trying to argue with me that this is the right way or this is not, and so on and so forth. So this is something that I came upon, and I started speaking with some individual, with an individual, and he started telling me certain things, and I was like, what? This was resonating with me, okay? And it made sense. So I just decided I wanted to find out more. And I delved a little deeper. And lo and behold, I'm here all the time that I know nothing about. Nobody, I was not exposed as an option or anything like that. And it exists in Trinidad. And the thing that in Trinidad and Tobago, the number of people who are IFA devotees, I was totally surprised by. Now people get confused. Of course, if you don't know who is Baptist and who is Orisha and who is whatever and who is Shango, this and and that kind of thing. But it's very distinctive. Just Baptists are connected, and there's the belief system that is connected to Christianity. Ifa and the African tradition, these African traditions have no connection with Christianity. Okay? It is a pantheon, it is a body of belief that is based on the forces of nature, the elements of nature, and no man is worshipped in this. There is no worship of any individual, but you will hear of Orishas. The Orishas may be depicted as personas of people, of what that spirit represents. So you may have Ogun, who has, the two weapons and that sort of thing, as that force. But there is not a picture of Ogun that you worship. You worship the energy. You don't worship the energy, you identify with the energy.
Yeah.
And that energy is the Orisha. Each one of us is an Orisha because we are an energy. Okay? What was interesting about this whole spirituality that I found is that all of the indigenous peoples on the planet more or less have the same system of worship and spirituality. You look at the American Indians, they don't worship a man. There's not a person that they pray to or anything. They pray to the elements. They God, sometimes you hear thunder roll, and that is a god. Okay? Or the river, that is a god. Or when they talk about their sacred lands and they talk about different things, there are animals that they have, revered animals. It is so in the Hindu religion to some extent also. It is so in all of the Aboriginal spirituality. So the peoples who were here long before the Europeans came and took over and stole the place, these peoples worshipped, they connected with a spirituality that was based on who God really is, which is nature. And the forces of nature. The greatest forces on this planet, on this earth, are natural forces. You can't be greater than earthquake. You can't be greater than hurricane. You can't be greater than the ocean. You can't be greater than the rivers and water when water decide to misbehave. You can't get in its way. These are the powerful forces on this planet in our existence that we only acknowledge when they happen and we call them disasters.
That's true. And
It's-
fire. And fire.
And fire, water, air. Okay? So what I'm saying is, it dawned on me, and I came to that realization that, listen, this thing is making a lot of sense, and I don't have to be looking at an image that is given to me and told that that is the image of so, and I have to worship and pray.
Mhm.
Okay? I've had difficulty with it over the years because it never really made sense to me,
Mhm.
especially, well, none of these images look anything like me. And I want to know where we are in the whole chain of things.
Mhm.
And is this imaging and is this lack of self-value and is this lack of our own direction and importance of ourselves that have so many of us, whether it be at the low economic end of the ladder or at the high, so many of us who are lost and we're drifting all over the place. We can't come together because there's no anchor. We don't have an anchor.
Mhm.
We don't have a spiritual anchor. We could talk about all the things that are offered, but when you boil down, come down to it, you realize that the people who are successful here, I'm going off the answer to the question that you asked, right? But the
No,
people
they're
who
all
are
connected. They are all connected if we are
Yeah.
having
right,
this
the
discussion.
people who are successful here have very strong spiritual anchors,
Yes.
underpinning and
Yeah.
system, right?
That is a fact of life.
Black people,
Mhm.
Black people do not have a religion that they can say, this is my religion.
Mm.
They do
Michael,
not have that. They practice religion that belong to other people who tell them that that is the right way and this is the religion, this way you're supposed to practice, and this is right and this is wrong, and that is it. But we grow up so, we program that way. It's difficult for us to break out. We are programmed that way from the cradle.
Hmm.
My first experience was, who made you? Catechism. Who made you? In whose image and likeness? Right? And about purgatory and all of these things. This was my first, I was less than 5 years old. And then Sunday school, and then what have you. So coming back to the whole thing about African tradition, and I'm not trying to advertise for anything or anybody. I am basically searching like everybody else. I think I'm a little more advanced than some, than some of the things, but I still have a tremendous amount of questions that, and I guess I will always have a lot of questions, as we all do in this journey, you know. So I have found quite a number of my answers in this spirituality, quite a number of them, amazingly so. And there are things that I see and I can discern and I can connect with that amazes even me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a little story which goes back to what we were talking about before, has to do with Neil and Marcy. When I decided to leave the Neil and Marcy group, that was mad people action.
yeah. I could just imagine.
It was mad people action. And of course, I didn't think so at the time. When I look back, sometimes you ask yourself, but what did you really do there? But what did you do that for? You know, and that sort of thing. But I could tell you that leaving the group, going through all of the difficulties and everything else that I had to deal with, there was never a question in my mind as to whether I did the right thing.
Yeah.
Now, when I left the group, it was not the decision that I made was not what anyone will consider a rational decision. It was rational to me, right? But I was one of the highest paid executives in the Need and Mercy Group. I was well respected. I could have, you're dealing with bankers and politicians and everybody, and so on. Kind of walking high on a little pedestal and so on, I was good. I was up there, right? And I just let go all of that, right? Why did I do it? I felt compelled to do that.
Yeah.
I felt almost like I could not do it. I couldn't understand fully at the time, not that I questioned. To my mind at the time, that was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at how that took place, I felt at the time that this was the choice and the only choice that I had. Obviously, it wasn't. Now, with the understanding of my own spirituality and where I am, I can answer these questions. I can actually see how that journey took place and how this journey continues. Because you must also know that when I left the Need and Mercy Group at the time, I was less than 40 years old. In the prime, I had children who, well, all of them went to the university. Everybody at least went through tertiary education, but those are big bills. We didn't have as many scholarships as we have now. So they had to be paid for. Who went to Jamaica, who went to the States, who went to my children are Howard graduates. And all were paid to fund that business. If I had remained in Need and Mercy, it would have been really a nice, easy flowing road. It simply wasn't that way. But the point I'm making is that whole journey, to me now, when I trace my journey, I have an understanding of that road that I walked, why it happened, how it happened, and I am now and who I am, most importantly, my purpose for this existence. And I think if there's anything that you can call a strength in your own existence, the thing that you wake up to and the thing that drives you and the thing that motivates you or propels, In other words, what people say, well, make you tick.
Mhm.
If you can come to some kind of realization of what your purpose is on this in this life, it makes a tremendous difference to
Yeah.
your existence and how you see things, and when things happen, how you deal with them, and the lens that you look at life through. I hope that answers your
Yes,
question.
it does.
Yes, Michael, what I want to say to him and listening to you, you really need, and I'm talking as a Black group, understand. You have to understand where you came from. You really need to look back at the history where you came from and how you can use that knowledge to build on that knowledge to really move in your passion. Let me say it like that. Because hearing you, I get that sense deep down. You always knew you're very confident in yourself, and that's why, and knowledgeable and willing to not to be always doing the norm. You look beyond that. And when I heard you in terms of how you start in terms of your spiritual journey, and you can link that where you are now to that feeling you had before. At that time, you may not have linked it to see where that force came from, where that energy came from. Now you can link it. And I really believe in that I would say energetic, that force around us, that energy that drives us, that gives us that passion. And as you speaking about the spirituality aspect, I actually grew up with Shango and Baptist religion. The church was right at the back of our house, that's way back, where my grandparents, between the Shango and Baptist, and then eventually my mom, well, you know how it works, that we switched and we became Catholics because you have to look at to get in the schools, etc., etc. But there's an aspect of that foundation that foundation that I have, that I can understand that movement of energy. I was never baptized in the faith. My baptism was in the Catholic faith. But understanding how powerful it is when you could find that, I use the word force. I don't want to say that word, but
Energy,
that
energy.
being, that energy, it is so important. And I feel too, it's a strength within our Black history. Is something that we could pull on as Black people to pull us out of that, to help add the positive in it, that's against the negative energy, to increase the positivity, because we hear so much all the negative, what we can do, and even with the religion, that is only negative, that you shouldn't go that way because of the, as you said, believing in all the evil, if you go that way. So I'm just sharing my thoughts on what you expressed. And I must say, it had me thinking again that our passion at this stage, and Terry, and say what we do here, we ask ourselves because it had no money. No money coming in at all. People say, oh, you all have a show, you're making money. It's nothing about money. And we question ourselves a lot and say, what are we doing? We doing this. But we have that passion, that pull, that belief that we are here for this purpose. We need to spread the message. And we have been, because of that drive, have been connected with people like yourself who could come on the show and really, really add so much value by sharing your story. I just want to just put that out there because that's how I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
Great. No, this
Well,
has
you all are doing a tremendous job as far as that is. being able to get that audience. And I saw the first time I encountered your show, I was at a friend and she said, okay, I won't be able to see you. We can't meet up now because I have to go on this show is going to start at so and so time, and I can't miss the show.
Gael people.
So
Gael people.
I am sure when she sees this one, because she doesn't miss it, you see that she know who I'm talking about, you know. And I say, what show is that? You know, and she say, Jennifer Gibbons. I know Jennifer, I've been there a long time, you know, and so on. And I know about, you know, that's a while ago, eh? I know.
Yeah, because we have been on a couple of years now, still at it, you know.
Yes.
And we really pleased with the feedback that we have been getting, and that keeps us going, you know.
Great.
Sure success, continuing success.
Thank you. Listen, our time has flown. It has flown.
What so?
But this has really been a treasure. It really has been. I really get excited when I hear entrepreneurial stories, and stories like yours are just, as the young people say, that's it for me, you know, and that you're still going. I tip my hat off to you. I absolutely do. Both in terms of your economic success in the manufacturing sector, leaving the conglomerate. I know exactly what that means. And the time that you did it, yes, it's mad people action, but you followed your spirit. Those energies and spirits were flowing in you since then. And I pray that they continue to carry you to tremendous success. And those steel band men behind you looking on, and they're blessing you. The energy out of that iron is carrying you. Thank you so very, very much for joining us today. And
this has been my pleasure. I feel very good about being here and sharing. One last thought I would want to share, because I try to do this for entrepreneurs, for anyone who is involved or want to be involved in business. One basic principle. Don't give up until you have no other choice but to do so. It is hard, and many, many times along the way, you can jump off easily. You can jump off because you can't take it anymore. You know? Don't give up, don't give up. Perseverance is a watchword. Press on. That's my advice to anyone who is, because business, you run into these storms so many times.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all very much. I'm very, very happy.
Great. Thank you.
Accepted your invitation. Thank you.
Okay.
I know Michael had so much to share, and it's so powerful, really, really powerful. You know, his innovation, all that he has done, and you mentioned it earlier, and in the chat you all would have heard. So all I can say is congrats, and that we are so proud to have someone at Michael level to be our guest for our Emancipation show. So
Yeah.
hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I would just say as my emancipation message to people is that there's a lot more light than there's darkness. And we need to
Oh, yeah.
stop falling into the trap of only talking about our negative. It is a minuscule part of our existence. And the only way that that will be corrected if we change our conversation and our narratives. It's there, we can't stop it, but I don't think it's there more than any other race or place. And we just need to look on the other side. So to everyone else, hope you had a great emancipation. Have a great rest of the week. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
50 Plus Tribe and followers from Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean.
Thank you for joining us on this Connections 50 Plus 5.8G Alive show.
We hope you enjoyed the lively conversation and look forward to seeing you next week.
Don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We really love getting your feedback. Bye for now.